Hello, grade 8 and 9s. Here we are starting off the year with some fractions. And there's two concepts we're going to be going over today. The first one is simplifying fractions, and the second one is multiplying fractions. So here we go. In this question, we're supposed to simplify the following fraction. This is 12 over 18. There's a number of different ways of doing this, but probably one of the simplest ways is just to find out something that can be divided, that the numerator, so the 12, and the denominator, the 18, can both be divided by. So I'm going to divide both these by 2, because I know that 2 is a factor of each of these. And then 12 divided by 2 is 6, and 18 divided by 2 is 9. Now at this point, I have to reevaluate it and just determine if I need to do that again. And I know that 3 goes into both of these, so I'm going to divide by 3. So 6 divided by 3 is 2, and 9 divided by 3 is 3. And since this can't be reduced anymore or simplified anymore, that is my final answer. So when I simplify 12 over 18, it simplifies to 2 over 3. Let's try another one. So in this one we have 24 over 40. And if you're unsure if something can be divided by each of the denominator and the numerator, just use your calculator. So for this one, I'm going to try out 4. So 24 divided by 4, and 40 divided by 4. Okay, so I know that 4 can go into both of those. So 24 divided by 4 and 40 divided by 4. That will give me 6 over 10. And now I will just divide by 2 to get 3 over 5. And again, this can't be simplified any further, so that's my final answer. Now moving on to one more simplifying question, we've got 84 over 120. Now, eventually it's going to be you're not going to have to just keep using this divide symbol, and you'll eventually get to the point where you're just comfortable just crossing out the number because you know that you're dividing it by 2 or dividing it by a number. In this case, we are going to divide by 2. So I'm going to get out my calculator and go 84 divided by 2 is 42, and 120 divided by 2 is 60. So you could cross that out if you wanted, or you could just equals and then simplify it here. Now this one can be simplified even further. I'm going to divide it by 2 again. So 60 divided by 2 is 30, and 42 divided by 2 is 21. Now I can look at this, and 21 cannot be divided by 2, so I'll have to try a different number. And I know that they can both be divided by 3 to get 7 over 10. Now because this can't be simplified any further, that's my final answer. So at this point, if you feel comfortable, you can go on to the homework assignment on questions 1 to 10. Okay, now we're moving on to multiplying fractions. So again, if you'd like to, you can stop the video and do questions 1 to 10. If you'd like to keep going and learn about multiplying fractions, you can just keep watching the video. So in this one, we're multiplying the fractions. Now when we multiply fractions, we are timesing the numerator by the numerator and the denominator by the denominator. Now, a common mistake that a lot of people do is they end up just multiplying it right away, and they end up getting these big numbers. So 4 times 5 is 20, and 15 times 24 is 360. So when we get to these big numbers, it can be hard to determine what you have to simplify by. So instead, what we'll do is we'll simplify first. So if we have 4 times 5, or 4 over 15 times 5 over 24, the first step that we're going to do is put them all over one fraction. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the numbers on the top and the numbers on the bottom and see if any of them can be reduced. For example, I know that 4 and 24 can both be divided by 4. So now I have 1 times 5 on the top and 15 times 6 on the bottom. Now, just like the previous questions with simplifying, I'm going to look at the fraction and think about any other numbers that can be simplified. I can look at the 15 and the 5, and those can both be divided by 5. Which gives me 1 times 1 and 3 times 6, which leaves me with 1 over 18. And that's my final answer. Let's try another one. So we have 3 over 10 times 5 over 12. And again, rather than multiplying the top, the numerator by the numerator and the denominator by the denominator right away, we're going to put it all into one fraction and then simplify it first. So I can see that the 3 and the 12 can both be divided by 3. Which leaves me with 1 times 5 and 10 times 4. And then I have to look at this again, and I can see that the 10 and the 5 can both be divided by 5. Which leaves me with 1 times 1 and 2 times 4. And at this point, nothing more can be simplified, so I can just multiply 1 by 1 and 2 by 4. And that's my final answer. Let's try one more. Okay, so in this one, 7 over 4 times 5 over 21. put it into one fraction. 7 and 21 can both be divided by 7. And in this particular question, nothing more can be simplified. So 1 times 5 is 5, and 4 times 3 is 12. And that's my final answer. So at this point, you can select the fraction homework and work on the remaining 8 questions. Good luck.